Welcome, deep divers, to another exploration into the heart of something, well, truly special today. We're
Hmm.
not just looking at a piece of music here, we're diving into the fascinating world of a real icon, the Moog MF108M Cluster Flux.
Yes.
Definitely more than just an effects pedal, wouldn't you say? It's this legendary piece of kit with a story as rich and complex as the sounds it actually makes.
Absolutely.
So our mission today, let's unpack its origins, its unique design, its sonic power, and really how it became such a coveted classic.
Yeah, it's a great subject because the cluster flux, it's not just circuitry in a box. It
Yeah.
really embodies Moog's whole philosophy.
Right.
It came out of that whole Mooger series, which was already groundbreaking. The vision there was, well, to squeeze the huge control of a modular sense.
Right, the big wall of knobs.
Exactly, into these, robust hands-on units. And with the cluster flux, they were really aiming for something special with modulation, something for guitarists and electronic musicians,
Yeah.
kind of blurring those lines.
Blurring lines is a good way to put it, because this isn't about just like turning on a basic chorus, is it? Or a simple flange.
No, no.
What we're talking about is like a whole sonic ecosystem, a really sophisticated tool for sculpting sound that carries Bob Moog's DNA, his innovative spirit.
Definitely.
And the fact that it became so rare later, that just sort of amplified the mystique, didn't it? Turned it from this cool tool into almost unobtainable for a lot of people.
Yeah, that scarcity factor really kicked in.
Okay, so to really get the magic, we need to go back to the start. The Moogerfugger MF108M Cluster Flex. It officially landed in 2011. Part of that Moogerfugger family. What was the big idea behind the whole series, and maybe the Cluster Flex specifically?
Well, the Moogerfoogers themselves were a pretty bold move, right?
Mm-hmm.
The core idea was, let's bring that complex, super expressive control you get from Moog modulars
Yeah.
to people who maybe aren't building a massive modular
Yeah.
rig. Guitar players, electronic artists, give them studio-grade processing, but in these tough stomp box formats.
Okay.
And for the Cluster Flux, the goal was to, like, totally reimagine those classic modulation effects, chorus, flanger, vibrato, but do it with Moog's distinct analog touch.
That analog DNA you mentioned?
Exactly. Every little part, the op amps, the capacitors,
Mm.
they were all chosen super carefully for sound quality, for character.
Oh.
And this dedication to using, bespoke, really high-end analog stuff,
Ah.
that was key to its amazing sound, but maybe kind of inevitably it also played a part in why it became hard to get later on.
Right. That makes sense. A bit of foreshadowing there. And the name itself, Cluster Flux, it's so evocative. What were they getting at with that?
Oh, it was brilliant naming.
Mm-hmm.
Flux just perfectly nailed its ability to kind of morph really smoothly between chorus, flanger, vibrato. You weren't locked in. You could explore the spaces between the effects.
Okay, yeah.
And Cluster hinted at those really rich, thick, swirling textures it could create, like a whole bunch of modulated sounds together. It wasn't just another effect. It was really an invitation to sculpt sound,
Yeah.
to get lost in it.
A modulation laboratory, as some people call it.
That's a great description.
So if that was the vision, this complex sound sculpting what was ticking away inside, what was the engine? We always hear about its analog bucket brigade delay core. What was special about Moog's take on BBDs?
Yeah, that BVD core is totally fundamental. I mean, Bucket Brigade chips weren't new, right? They'd been around.
Sure.
But Moog's engineering around them, that was meticulous. They didn't just, grab any old chip. The circuitry around the BBD, things like preemphasis, de-emphasis, and especially these carefully tuned filters.
Anti-aliasing filters.
Exactly. They were all designed to keep the signal clean and warm, trying to minimize that noise and the aliasing artifacts you sometimes get with BBDs, especially when you push the delay times.
Oh.
So it wasn't just any analog delay. It was a Moog-tuned BBD, optimized for, the best fidelity and that really lush organic sound Moog is known for. That's where the warmth comes from, the depth, that sort of living quality people chase in analog gear.
That attention to detail really makes a difference, doesn't it?
Huge difference.
But it wasn't just the BBD, was it? That modulation section. It gave users this almost intimidating range of choices. It wasn't just a simple sine wave LFO.
Oh, absolutely not. That's where the laboratory idea really comes alive.
Yeah.
You had this whole palette of LFO shapes.
Hmm.
Sine, square, triangle, ramp, and critically, sample and hold.
Sample and hold. Right. What did that let you do?
Well, it wasn't just for random warbles, though it could do that too. The sample and hold could create these rhythmic, stepped modulations, almost like a tiny sequencer inside the pedal.
Wow.
Imagine like a sudden sharp filter cutoff on a synth or a vibrato that jumps between specific notes perfectly in time. It really turned modulation into something you could compose with. You could go from super subtle movement
Yeah.
to these absolutely wild experimental sweeps that could just completely mangle your sound in, a good way.
And you could feel all of this, right? It was hands-on. You had the drive knob, that famous Moog warmth input gain.
Classic Moog drive.
Then output for level, mix for wet-dry blend. Crucially, delay time to kind of dial in whether it felt more like a chorus or a flanger.
Right, that was key for shaping the core effect.
The feedback control. You mentioned screaming oscillations earlier. It could go from just adding a bit of depth right up to self-oscillation.
Oh yeah, it could get really intense, almost like another instrument.
And then, of course, LFO, right in amount for speed and depth, and the waveform selector knob. But the thing that really jumps out, for me anyway, is the connectivity, the MIDI and CV control. How did that push it beyond just being a pedal?
Ah, that's such a critical point. The MIDI, and especially the CV implementation, that was a total game changer. Moog designed those CD inputs to be really responsive, wide voltage range, super fine resolution.
Okay.
So you could control it in incredibly detailed ways from modular synths, sequencers, expression pedals.
So you could, like, sync the LFO to a drum machine.
Exactly. Or modulate the delay time with keyboard aftertouch.
Yep.
Or sweep the mix knob with your foot while playing. It turned the pedal into an instrument itself, really. Yeah. And it absolutely blurred that line. It became like a high-end modular module, but in a pedal format, not just some static effect you'd stomp on and off.
Yeah.
That level of integration made it this incredibly powerful creative hub. Very few pedals offered that depth back then.
All that tech is impressive, definitely. But for musicians, it always comes down to the sound, doesn't it? What did this thing actually sound like? What kind of sonic colors could artists paint with?
Its voice was, well, it was incredibly versatile, almost like a chameleon.
Yeah.
But it always had that unmistakable analog richness, So as a chorus, it was just huge, really expansive, almost 3D sounding. Think of those really lush, shimmering textures on classic synths, or making guitar chords feel just wider, more enveloping.
Not thin or phasey?
No, not at all. It was quite hi-fi, actually. Added sparkle and depth, but without getting muddy. Now, as a flanger, it could do that classic whooshing jet plane thing, definitely. But it had an intensity. Few other flangers could really match it. If you crank the feedback, whoa, it could turn a guitar into like a sci-fi laser or make a drum loop sound like this churning, metallic, industrial thing.
Wow.
But still kind of musical,
Yeah.
That extreme resonance it could hit was almost overwhelming sometimes, but in a really cool way.
So it nailed the classics, but with that mode character. Where did it go when artists wanted to get more experimental?
Ah, okay. This is where the cluster flux became this absolute playground for sound designers. With all those LFO shapes, especially sample and hold and the CV control, you could just generate these wild, sometimes unpredictable textures.
Like what?
Well, imagine creating sounds that are almost like ring modulation, turning a simple bass line into something robotic, or random filter sweeps making a drone feel like it's constantly evolving. You can sculpt these rhythmic glitches, bubbling delay patterns, even synth-like arpeggios if you fed it the right CV signals. It was definitely a tool for artists who wanted to push things, to make sounds that maybe hadn't really been heard from a pedal before, basically turning anything you fed into it into this vibrant, modulated landscape.
It really sounds like something that rewarded deep exploration, which probably explains why it appealed to such a wide range of people, ambient guitarists, techno producers.
Totally. It wasn't stuck in one genre at all.
Okay, so it launches at Moogfest 2011, gets this devoted following through the 2010s. But then, the classic story with cool analog gear, discontinuation. Late 2010s, what happened? Why did they stop making it?
Yeah, it was a combination of things, really. A big one was component scarcity. Remember those special studio-grade analog parts we talked about?
Yeah, the BBDs and stuff.
Exactly. They became really hard, maybe even impossible, to get reliably in the numbers Moog needed. That's a common headache in analog manufacturing. And alongside that, there was probably some element of Moog's strategic refocus as a company. Shifting priorities, putting resources into other areas, other products. It's kind of the double-edged sword of unique analog gear. The special parts make it great, but they can also seal its fate.
And that discontinuation, it didn't just stop production. It basically lit a fire under the used market, creating what people call cult scarcity.
Oh, absolutely.
We're seeing originals now go for, what, $800, $1,200, sometimes more.
Easily, yeah.
I've heard these wild stories musicians who maybe thought it was too big or too pricey when it first came out.
Right, dismissed it initially.
And then years later, they're paying double, triple the original price just to find one. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? What is it about that whole phenomenon? How does something go from niche to legendary like that?
It's fascinating, right? It's like this mix of psychology and market stuff, beyond just how good it sounds. This cult status often comes from a few things lining up. First, there's that unobtainium factor you mentioned. Limited numbers, plus a really unique analog sound that's just hard, maybe impossible,
Okay.
to perfectly copy digitally. That creates a desire that software doesn't always scratch.
Okay.
Then there's the sonic identity. It's not just an effect, it's a specific voice. Once artists find that voice and rely on it, they feel like they need it,
Can't live without it.
pretty much. And finally, there's the association, seeing innovative artists use it, connecting it to a certain era or sound,
Yeah.
becomes part of music history. It taps into that collector urge, but also the real desire for a tool that gives you something unique, maybe even exclusive sounding. It just proves some sounds can't easily be replaced, so people hunt down the original mojo.
So the very thing that some people initially saw as overkill, too much control for a pedal,
Yeah.
that complexity became part of its appeal, part of the obsession. Was that complexity ever a downside, though?
Oh, for sure. For some players, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you just wanted a simple one-knob chorus shimmer, yeah, this was definitely the overkill chorus.
Right.
It was deep. But for the musicians who really dug into it, that flexibility was incredible, totally unmatched at the time in a pedal format. It really embodied that whole modular pedal board idea.
With the CV control everywhere?
Exactly. CV for almost everything. It kind of broke down the wall between pedals and proper modular synth modules.
Yeah.
It encouraged a whole different way of thinking about effects chains. And, within Moog's own story, it really stands out as one of the last pedals directly from that original Mooger figure design philosophy.
Before things shifted a bit.
Yeah. So it feels like a direct piece of Bob Moog's living legacy in instrument design, like the final word on that particular vision almost.
And thankfully for those who couldn't snag an original, Moog did acknowledge that legacy, right? In 2022, they brought out the Mooger Fooger software plugins, including a digital cluster flux.
Which it was huge. It made those sounds accessible again, even if it's in a different form.
Yeah.
That move itself says a lot about how important and enduring the original hardware was.
Definitely. And you see its impact in the artists who used it, right? A pretty wide range.
Right. Oh, totally. You think of someone like the Edge from U2, weaving Mooger Foogers into those massive ambient textures. Or Nils Klein from Wilco. He's famous for pushing boundaries. And those Mooger Foogers are often key parts of his adventurous pedal setups.
Right.
But it wasn't just guitar heroes. Synth players, experimental producers. They all grabbed onto the cluster flux, used it in modular rigs, processed synths with it, vocals, even drums sometimes. It was just this universal tool for adding character and movement, a real cross-genre workhorse.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway here? The Moog MF108M cluster flux. It's clearly way more than just another effects pedal.
Oh, way more.
It feels like this unique meeting point, doesn't it? Between modular synthesis thinking and pedal culture, a truly sophisticated sound lab in a box that really pushed things forward.
Absolutely. Its legacy, the fact that it's still one of the most sought-after Mooger Foogers, it's just a powerful reminder, really. It shows how truly groundbreaking design, when you combine it with that careful analog engineering, can create instruments that don't just process sound, they actually help define sounds, define genres, and spark creativity in totally new ways. It felt like a living thing you could interact with.
Yeah, definitely. And it leaves us with a question, maybe for you listening. In this age we're in now, with endless digital plugins and emulations, what is it about these rare, sometimes quirky analog boxes like the Cluster Flux? Why do they still hold such fascination for musicians? Why do they command such respect and, frankly, such high prices? What kind of unique sonic flux are you maybe curious to explore next in your own music?